everyone, and welcome back to our winning list series. It truly is a series now. We've done loads of these, so if you haven't seen the ones we've done previously, especially the one that we've already done with Jacob, then go and give it a watch because they're all great. But today we're back with Jacob, who recently won at our Wednesday Warfare at the Outpost, which is our midweek mainstay RTTs we do at the Outpost in Sheffield, with Mont'Ka. So, I'm here, obviously. I've got Joe and Jacob here with me. Say hi to these fellas.
Hello.
Jacob's the first one to win 2 events since we started doing this about 6 weeks ago. So,
I'm right in saying that this event actually no one got an invitation to the Tournament of Champions, right?
Yeah, because all 3 podiums have already got one. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just, on that, actually, that's worth mentioning. At the end of the Carnage season, we do a Tournament of Champions, and if you win one of our events, you get invited back to that for free. And this year, it's going to be a big one. Well, I'll say this year, it's next year. It's the start of next season, so it'll be February 2025, and we're going to stream it, and it's going to be a big deal, and we're going to host it at the Deep, and we're going to play it in that tunnel where the sharks swim. No, not really. It'd be cool if we did. No. So it's going to be a big one. So if you fancy your chances, you can come win one of our events, go to the Tournament of Champions, and there'll hopefully be some tasty prizes at the Tournament of Champions. So yeah, anyway, without further ado, let's crack on with the list. Jacob, take it away.
Yes. So, as you already mentioned, I was playing a Mont'Ka. It's a fairly standard. There were a few little picks, but I'll quickly go over it. So, I had 2 Cadrify Blades for the list. They just really help in terms of the breach's damage output, obviously increasing their shots by 1. Also, them by themselves add quite a few shots with like a gun drone and then their rifle that's 2 damage. It's okay. And the key part is one of them has an enhancement called Strike Swiftly. It's one of the key parts of the Mont'Ka detachment. Essentially what it does is he gives 2 units within 6 Scout 6. Can also be himself, and it can be any unit. So you can give Scout to a Riptide, give Scout to anything. Storm Surge if you really wanted to.
Storm Surge is scouting up the ball.
Yeah, it's very funny. It allows you to do certain, like you could move a Riptide 22 inches turn 1 if you really wanted to, which is just ridiculous. But yeah, it's
so stupid, isn't it?
It's silly, and it works best on the Cadrify Blades I've found. Some people have been putting it on like ethereal, some people have been putting on crew characters, but you probably want to already take the Cadrify Blade, so you're not then having to allocate more points of your list into a character that is essentially going to do nothing. And what you can do with a Cadrify Blade is start it outside of the transport, give its own unit Scout to scout into the Devilfish, and the Devilfish already has Scout because Dark Strider sometimes could start in it. And as I just mentioned, also have Dark Strider in the list. Really good utility pick. 12-inch Deep Strike Deny. Just works really well at the minute with obviously a lot of like 3-inch deep strikes potentially, or just the 12-inch deep strike is just really good. It's just all arounder.
And there's more and more of it as well, don't we? Like there's the Tyranids thing now that keeps popping up. The Morlock.
Yeah, the Morlock, yes, and certain things like demons now, because obviously now essentially all of the demons becoming locuses or whatever you want to call them. It pushes them out further, which is good. So yeah, then we've got Commander Shadow Sun again. Just 100 points. She has to be the Warlord. 100-point character. It gives rerolls nearby. She's got Lone Op, so just a good utility character. Again, is what I find a lot of in my list is utility is like one of the biggest things. Because if you can play the mission, then yeah.
Then you're gonna win.
yeah. 2 units of breaches for both the Cadrify Blades. They are probably the best unit in the Codex at the minute. They're just so many shots. Okay. I don't think it's really a hot take. I think I don't know.
Yeah,
they're just a very good unit for the points. Obviously, OC2 battle line being like a very important thing now with the new mission pack. And yeah.
I'm trying to remember when we did the Talking Tau tier list, if you had the Breaches or the Riptide #1.
It was. I think it was probably one of those two, wasn't it?
It was one of them two. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
But...
yeah. And yeah, then I've got one devilfish. I don't tend to need two, just because if you position them correctly, you can most of the time jump breaches through and then just recycle the devilfish and recycle the breaches inside it. So yeah, 2 ghost keels. Again, with the new cards, what ghost keels allow you to do, in addition to just being a good, just all-round vehicle that's relatively tough. Obviously, it has low up and has some decent shooting. It allows you to not throw away units to do certain cards. So you can achieve certain secondaries for free, essentially, like Containment, the one with the board edges.
Yeah.
Different.
The survive ones as well, like the Sabotage and Recover Assets. They're very
exactly.
with the blown up, blanking damage and stuff like that. So they're really good for. Yeah, I can see them being really good for secondaries. Yeah.
2 hammerheads after that. Again, just like good anti-tank threat. Because with broadsides went down, so it's kind of one or the other. But I was testing in between, so this is the list with the hammerheads. And yeah, they're just a really good anti-tank unit. Very tanky themselves. Unit Pathfinders after that. Got Scout and Infiltrate, which is just 2 amazing rules to have on one unit. Can spot twice. And yeah, they're just an all-around good unit. Good green. 3 Riptides. It's a recurring theme.
Yeah, you don't leave home without your Riptide.
Yeah, most of the time in my lists, you will either see, well, you will always see 3 Riptides. Minimum two. They're just such a good unit. Obviously, they changed the devs to be the way that it should have been now, so you have to declare it before you shoot, but still an amazing unit, very tanky. Being 4 damage is very meta relevant in some cases, and -3 is also big.
My wolves know all about that damage 4.
Yeah, very, very, very naughty. And then just to wrap it up, we've got 3 units of stealth. Good utility units. Give real ones to hit and wound when spotting for units. Cheap. They've got stealth. They've got infiltrate. Again, like a lot of this list is very utility, because but it plays the mission very, very well, and that's what I designed the list to do.
I'm just going to dive in with a question. So before the WWO, you came to our event at the Holmfirth Gaming Centre, the RTT, and you were testing a list there. Was that was this the same list, or did you make changes on the back of that tournament?
So the list that I took to Holmfirth was a retaliation cadre list.
Okay.
And it was 3 units of crisis suits in that, with Farsight. Just because it is, in my personal opinion, there's 2 different ways that you can go about playing Tau at the minute. It's retaliation cadre with the crisis suits. Farsight, obviously, now the changes to a way that like the captain ability works is that he can use his, like, he can reduce stratagems on anything, which is really good, amazing ability. And so, yeah, that's one list: crisis suits, Farsight, or you can lean down the route of either Mont'Ka or Kion, which obviously very different play styles. One's more aggressive, one's more late game, but they still kind of have the similar units with, like, obviously Riptides, either hammerheads or broadsides. I do believe broadsides are better in Mont'Ka personally, just because it increases their movement so much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you think Mont'Ka then? Sorry, Alec, go on.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, with a new like UKTC pack, obviously there's a lot more terrain on the middle of the board, and the firing lanes are there's a lot less firing lanes and like tighter angles and stuff. Do you think Mont'Ka's got to be the way to sort of play at the moment then, just to solve that issue of being able to get round and see stuff?
Mont'Ka gives you the mobility so that I don't want to say if you've misplaced units, but maybe if you've had to overextend in certain cases, it then allows you to, obviously because your units are faster, respond quicker to certain threats. Whereas Kayun, obviously, yes, the angles have been hurt, but I mean, we'll move on to the maps in a second. But you can place models in a way that I can threat every angle on the board.
You still can,
yeah. Yeah, unless you are literally hidden behind, obviously, your ruins, I can draw a line. And
yeah, that's fair. Cool.
Yeah,
that's interesting to know. So yes, you're still all right as a shooting army. You've found once you've
yeah.
got, you know where you're going with it. Yeah, that's cool.
Because even without Mont'Ka, we've still got the speed, right? So.
Yeah, still fast, aren't you?
Suppose,
right.
Let's crack on with the rounds then. So round one, you had Sisters, Bringers of Flame.
Yes.
And that was on Terraform and Swift Action.
Yes. So I've played this Sisters play before, actually. At the
I think this was on.
Yeah, I think it was the last midweek that I played. I played against this player, but obviously got a codex since then.
Was this on the last winning list video that you played this, Adam, as well?
I am fairly certain it was.
Yeah, I think it might have been.
I'm fairly certain that I did. Yes,
cool.
I believe that I played this player last time. And obviously his list was similar, but obviously now he's got codex, so he's playing the Bringers of Flame, so he's got access to the things like obviously the canister jump packs and then the stratagems on the flamers, which can be really brutal. But what I found with the list straight away, analyzing the list, is in terms of anti-tank threat and a lot of my key assets in terms of things that will get me through the game is the Riptides, the Hammerheads, and the Ghost Keels. Now, in terms of what he could threaten those with, it was kind of a Castigator and the Paragons, because the Seraphim units were only 5-mans. So yes, he could pop the strat, but they were never going to go crazy like what a 10-man could potentially do.
Well, can you not have because they have 2 flamers each, don't they? Them, can you not have all the flamers in a 5-man? Then is it only
no?
So
In a 5-man squad, you can have 2 Sisters with 2 flame pistols. In a 10-man, you can have 4. Yeah. And then I think the Canoness can take one, maybe. So yeah. So essentially, looking at his list, obviously he's got the 2 Canoness with jump packs, but he's got the 10 Zephyrim and 2 Seraphim. So essentially, the key threats in the list were Val's unit and the Castigator, because they were going to be the key and obviously the Zephyrim as well. Were going to be the key damage outputs against my big vehicles. And so essentially, what I just had to do was just ensure that my pieces weren't exposed to those, and they can move quite quick, but not as quick as me to get the angles right. And so essentially, he played it very, very aggressively, which I don't know whether or not that was bad or not. Personally, I would have probably. So he went first, and essentially what he did is he full sent the big 10-man brick turn 1 of Zephyrim, and what it allowed him to do was charge that big brick with a Canoness into a Hammerhead, because he gave them, I can't remember exactly what the Triumph does, but I believe it gives extra movement and bonuses to charge, maybe.
Yeah, it gives them extra movement. Yeah, I mean it's got like 6 million auras. So
He picked the ones which made him go quick, and he went quick. And so I did my usual trick of putting Pathfinders in the midboard to, if I go first, present a threat, or if I go second, just scout them back behind the building. I went second, so obviously scout them back behind the building. And then the big 10-man Zephyrim charge, so they multi-charged. So they charged into a Hammerhead, the Pathfinders, and I think no, it was just those. It was those 2 units.
Yeah.
But essentially, all what happened from that is I think he didn't even manage to wipe the Pathfinders. I think there were like 3 left, and then he didn't kill the Hammerhead either. And I didn't really expect him to kill it, just because not all of them were going to be able to fight. It was going to be a bit weird. So, and then what happened was I didn't lose anything because he did damage to the Hammerhead. I think he brought it down to like 5-6 wounds, but then I just fell back with those. And because he was essentially in an easy place where I could shoot my entire army and not have any kind of clapback, I just picked them all up. And also on the right flank, he had obviously he has dominions with the melters, which is another scary threat. But so he had an immolator on, and he reinforced his objective. But what happened there is he moved that up, and I put a devilfish on the line and I scouted it up with Darkstrider inside, and there were also some breaches in there as well, because the Devilfish scouted up first, and then they scouted into the Devilfish from the Strike Swiftly enhancement. But he jumped his melters out, didn't kill the Devilfish, and then in response, I picked up all the Dominions, and then essentially just move blocked the Immolator. And also, one big thing that he also mentioned, and big like misplay, that was that he started Val's unit on the board, which meant that Val's unit went from being a very, very key threat in the game to nothing, because he started them on the board in his back big building.
Okay. So not even in this one in the middle.
No, not even in the middle.
Yeah, that's
started in the back big ruin. And so turn 2, he moved them up, and they killed a Devilfish. But then I'm pretty sure I shot them with like 2 Riptides and a Hammerhead, and then all that was left was Val.
So he just misplayed his main 2 units by the sounds of it, with his Zephyr.
And then essentially after that, and I also managed to I think so that was turn 1, but then on turn 2, as I just mentioned, I picked up Val's unit, but not Val. But then I also got a line down into the Castigator with the Hammerhead and just picked it up. So then it meant that
them Hammerheads, man.
dirty
things.
And it meant that essentially all he had left was the Triumph and
some trash
and some scoring pieces here and there. And so after that, I mean, the Triumph was really annoying, to be fair. She
is annoying.
Yeah, he just doesn't die. Like a 4 of him, 16 wounds. And he did what he did with the jump pack. So he just kind of full sent with it, and he charged it into a Riptide. And obviously the Triumph doesn't do that much into like a big target. And so I think for like 3 turns, my Riptide was like falling back and then falling back
Triumph
and
versus
Triumph.
Riptide.
Yeah, and like, but then I would also like tag the Triumph because it's OC6 or something stupid. And so I didn't want it to take my home field, so I was essentially falling something back and then charging something back in, and every turn keep like doing this dance where one unit would charge and then another unit would charge back in.
Doing a dance with Catherine.
Yeah. Just essentially to guarantee that the Triumph was tagged so that it couldn't then steal my primary.
Come on, Cap. I know you're a corpse, but get up and up.
No primary for you.
What was the score on this one?
So the score was 93-50.
Okay. Solid win. Yeah, cool.
All right. Let's move on then. So round 2, you were into it was
CSM. Sam Boardman.
Sam Boardman. Sorry, my brain stopped working for a second there. Sam Boardman, CSM Renegade.
Player is Sam. He won an event last season and got to our Tournament of Champions.
He did. Andy was at the UKTC Invitational for going undefeated.
With Death Guard.
Death Guard.
Chaos Knights, I think he did it with,
Oh, was it nice?
I think he did it with Chaos Knights at Leeds, I believe.
Sound.
Okay, fair. I thought it was
Yeah, I
definitely
believe.
fair.
We can
So
ask.
this ended. This was very close, actually.
Yes, so this was a very close. So it was 90-85, and so I've played against CSM a couple of times now. One person who I have played against is Craig, one of our team members, who's also a very good player.
Don't spell his head like that.
Terrible. No. And one key thing going into this is, so obviously he's got like the rubrics. It's similar to Josh Roberts' style of list, but then essentially what he's gone for instead, he's gone for a big 10-man chosen brick, and 2 hell drakes.
I was just looking at that.
Yeah, which I believe there were some legionnaires in that list as well.
I might have missed them off. Sorry, that might be a typo for me.
Yeah, so he had the 3 rhinos, and essentially the way that it did it is that he had some rubrics in some, and then he had legionnaires in some other ones, and it was a scary list, to be fair.
It's a good detachment. It's pretty.
Yeah, the Renegade Raiders are a really good detachment, and the Helldrakes are kind of like this hidden weird unit, because obviously against most armies they're probably not that great, but then going into me, if you pop sustains on them and then sustain then and he gets a decent amount, they're anti-fly 2 plus dev wounds, and they're 2 damage. So a Helldrake could very easily charge a Riptide and just one bang it. Which is very, very frightening. Very, very frightening.
That is quite funny.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, me and Sam are always going to have a close game, because I mean we're both experienced players, and I mean I've played Sam once before this, and again that was another really good game. But essentially in this, I just had to really respect his output, because the chosen brick, insane. The Vindicators also really good, and also the Legionnaires again. And with the rubrics and the rhinos, what it essentially meant, especially on this map layout, which is kind of a rough one, is that he can deny primary very, very, very easily. So yeah.
I'm correcting.
I think it was Team 5 man's not to just ruin your day.
Oh no, was it?
Team 5 man.
Oh god.
But yeah. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
There were 10 legionaries in there. There were 10 legionaries.
Oh, was it a unit of 10?
No. Tell you what, I'll pull it up.
Anyway, he had some legionaries that were scary, because they've got essentially 2 power fists. And then obviously with the Lord, they can reasonably slap into a Riptide and do a very decent amount of damage. So yeah.
Sad face on the legionary.
But so this game ended 90-85, so it was a really close game.
Yeah.
So I went second, which was a key part.
That helps.
Yes, because it essentially meant that whatever my primary was before that, I get 15, right?
Yeah. You can play a little bit more cagey, can't you? And you're going to get that 15 at the end.
Yeah, which is kind of what I did. Had to, because essentially I would never want Sam to score 15 on the primary, so I always denying him down to 10, but it obviously meant using assets. Because he's got a lot of rubrics, and in one turn he kind of just went, well, here's all my army, I know you can't actually kill it, which sometimes into Tower is a bad thing, but I think Sam knew, and he did it at the perfect time, really. He did it in a perfect time where a lot of units would struggle to get the angles just because of where I had to commit, and so if I was shooting something into a unit, I couldn't essentially go, here's 2 units, I'll guarantee delete this unit. It was, I'll probably be able to put one of my units into that unit, might be able to clear it, but it's very swingy, might leave it alive, and then he could then score primary. So I had to be really careful on that turn. I believe it was turn 3, when essentially I had to pick up what he gave me. otherwise it was game, because he presented like the chosen units, I believe 2 units of rubrics, and a cheeky Heldrake.
I've got some news for you, Jacob.
Oh,
there is no Legionaries in that list.
there's no.
I was right.
No.
Oh, well,
No?
maybe it was just rubrics.
There is 4 squads of 5 rubrics in there.
That's probably why. So what he probably did then with the 3 rhinos is because he had 2 rhinos on either flank and then 1 in the middle. So what probably happened was he had 2 units of 2 rubrics on either side and then the big chosen in the middle. But yeah, it was a really. I'm just making mistakes. What are you gonna say? it was a really good game.
Hey mate, we play a lot of Warhammer. You're not going to remember exactly what I had in the list. This event as well, by the way, was nearly 2 weeks ago now. We've just been struggling to get recording time done. So, it's going to be a little bit hazy in your memory. So.
Yes. It's
all good. Awesome. Right, are you ready to move on to round 3 then? Are we good?
Yes.
Excellent. Let me just get rid of that. Here we go. All right, so round 3, Tyranids Invasion Fleet. Now, I haven't seen NIDS on a round 3 table, top table at an RTT for a long time. Probably since Crusher Stampede stopped. Just a long time.
Yeah, it's true. It's been a long time. Especially, I haven't seen one at our events do that well.
Oh no, and we had we had a Hive Tyrant with perfectly adapted, a Neuro Tyrant, which is one of the newer units, 2 big blobs of Termagants, Biovore, 2 Exocrines, which are a bit of a mainstay, 2 Lictors for the pop up and kill, 2 Maleceptors, a Neurolictor, a Non-Emissary, which again I don't think you see those very often.
That's is the Non-Emissary the one where you stand on an objective and you get like 15 OC?
So the Non-Emissary is 4 up in 1, 5 full of pain, and 15 OC on an objective, which is really good in this mission.
Right.
Very good.
It's supply drop in it as well.
And Tyrannofex, which you don't see very often, and the Zoanthropes, which you kind of stopped seeing once they fixed the whole bridging of mortal wounds that you used to be able to do at the beginning of 10th. Do you remember that?
Are they dev wounds anymore then?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Las cannons, aren't they?
Yeah.
Big brain las cannons.
Yeah. One key thing as well about the T-Fexes and the other bugs. So the T-Fexes are blank, and a lot of the bugs, the bigger bugs, have invuns and a T11 or T10. So against a lot of my shooting, which other than the hammerheads, obviously, it's not exactly. It is not a target that I want to be shooting at, essentially, because my Riptides are strength 8. So wounding on 5s, and then I've got 1 shot with a hammerhead railgun, which if he passes a 4 up does nothing. So going into it was that. I mean, it's NIDS, right? But it was. I had to respect it because the output that they can have is actually really good. So yeah.
What was the score on this one?
So you will have to check because this is the one that
I've got it up here, mate. It was 81 to 51.
Yes.
I was on about this with Brett in the last one. This mission sucks, right? Like we shouldn't have it. We're going to drop it from our events, I think, if they don't remove it anyway.
I agree. But it just needs going because
like,
I went second.
Did you? Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, bro, that's what happened with Brett. He went second, and
essentially what happened in this game was, so as I just mentioned, so he went first. I hid all my units so that he wouldn't be able to get any shots turn 1. But essentially, again, he was a good player. Definitely like a faction specialist. Like only plays NIDS. But he's good at them. He's only played literally all he has ever played is NIDS. He's a good player.
Oh, okay.
He just doesn't play often. I think that was his thing that he mentioned. Is he doesn't play often, but he was a good player. And essentially, so since he went first, we were both talking about it. And I mean, obviously, I didn't want to play the game for my opponent, but so what my opponent said is, since he went first, is a rough one, and I do agree, because we probably both wanted second, obviously, on this mission. But But essentially what he did is he just kind of full sent with his bugs. With the Maleceptors, obviously not so much with the Exocrines. And he just had a really bad start. So certain things like he committed a Lictor turn 1 to pick up a unit of free stealth, which I wanted to get the Lictors out of the way early because I knew that there could be a nonsense. So I essentially used one of my stealth suits as a bait, and he committed into it, and he didn't even kill them. And then on my turn, which meant that if he killed them, not only would he have killed them and scored points, he would have also been able to move behind the wall because of a special rule that they have. I don't know. But which then what meant I could do is fall back and kill it, and then also have primary. And then he essentially had no threat on that side of the board other than that Lictor. So other than a non-emissary, which is a threat. But
yeah, sorry, Jacob, with a non as well, obviously, like with this being supply drop, did you have in your head that, like, I've got to kill this before the last turn?
So I did, but then he also made a key point of, so he's got 2 units of Gaunts, which is high OC, and he obviously, because you deploy your army and then you find out, so he deployed his non on his I don't know how to describe it. His thinner side of the board. That Yes, the top left. He deployed it there.
Side here.
Yes, and then the objective ended up being the one on the far right. Yes.
Another question as well for you. I don't know if you'll know, but when does he pick his objective for the non to like go OC 15 on it? Is it after you've know which one's staying?
I honestly can't remember.
Right.
But all I know is that he did pick the one where essentially what he wanted to do is guarantee primary early with the non on that side of the objective. Because what it would mean is that by putting the non on that objective, it's very tough. It's like T11, lots of wounds, 4 up in them, 5 ton of pain. And so essentially putting on that objective meant that for the first 3 turns of the game, let's say, that's what, 13 primary, which already is, for one model, scoring 13 points is insane, right? Even if it didn't get the thing on the last turn, it's already scored 13. And so that's what he did.
Yeah, fair enough.
So essentially that's what he did. He put it on that side and just put it on there and said, well, I'm holding this objective. What are you doing about it? So on my first turn, so that was his first turn, he committed, move forward the non, move forward his Maleceptors. But then on my turn, I just decided to kill it all.
You worrying like, oh, if I'm going to wound everything on 5s, you know, it's looking a bit rough. So, I just killed it all.
Not all. So obviously, essentially there were 2 Maleceptors that he committed to the mid board. If they would have lived, it would have been a game. If they died on turn 1, it was. We both agreed on it. We both essentially said, well, if these die, it's probably game.
Yeah.
And I managed to pick them both up. They were very tanky. They had like feel no pains and everything. It took my entire army. And he committed his entire army. So like, well, cool, I'll do the same. So all 3 Riptides, both Hammerheads, everything shot into these 2 Maleceptors. One key thing that, in my opinion, he should have done. So he was playing the NID detachment. Actually, no, I think
it was Invasion Fleet. It was Invasion Fleet.
Yeah. So he went for lethal, which was nice. But anyway, he had the Neuro Tyrant, which was big, which let him do the -1 on the Battle Shocks board wide. If he did that turn 1, so I wouldn't have been able to spot if my units are battle shocked, which would have cut my output insanely. And I probably wouldn't have killed those 2 Maleceptors. I would have probably bounced because I'd be hitting on 4s. I wouldn't get rerolls, and I wouldn't ignore cover. Yes, he has 4 up invent anyway, but hitting on 4s, no rerolls is a big deal.
Yeah.
And essentially, literally. So, and he didn't do that turn 1. He didn't do the board wide battle shock turn 1.
The shadows thing.
Yeah, the shadow in the warp, I believe it is.
Because they try wait until you're on the objectives and stuff, but it's not as relevant on this mission, is it?
No.
If he had
have done it turn 1, I genuinely don't believe I would have killed those 2 Maleceptors because it was very close. Like I'm pretty sure like a grenade finished off one of these Maleceptors. Like, like it was...
also like the score usually doesn't reflect
this mission.
Sometimes, yeah, just sometimes because I know you won by 30, but you score 15 at the end. Do you know what I mean? It's such a big swing at the end. Was this game closer than that then?
Well, it was obviously. It was very brutal turn 1, obviously, as I mentioned. So I killed the 2 Maleceptors, I killed a Lictor, and I believe that's it. And then so yeah, I killed the 2 Maleceptors and the Lictor. But then, so what he did do, because we were talking about it in his turn 1, being like, because I always go through all my rules, and then on turn 2, when he battle shocked me, and I was like, you probably should have done that turn 1, and he was like, yeah, probs. Because obviously not being able to spot is big, right? Because as we already mentioned, so obviously going from hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s, no rerolls, to hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s with lethals, and then wounding on 5s, rolling 1s is a lot better than just hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s. Yeah. And so and he did it on turn 2, and I essentially killed nothing. Like he did it on turn 2, and I think it took my entire It took my entire army on turn 2 to just pick up the unit of zones. When on turn 1 I picked up 2 Maleceptors, and I'm wounding these zones on 3s, by the way, not 5s like the other ones. And it took my entire army to just kill that one.
It's just an interesting way and a different way of looking at the shadows.
Yeah, it's a big tool. It's a big tool that Nids have against Tau, because you can stop me from spotting. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, it's cool to see it working in a different way than just an iron primary.
Yeah, and essentially, after that, after me killing 2 key, because the Maleceptors and the Zoanthropes are the key pieces in his army, and essentially after picking those up, I mean, we did play the game, but we were more like, we were playing the game together. We were both talking through both our turns to each other. We were having a really clear game, and it's wrong to say that my opponent gave up, because he didn't. But like he kind of accepted that after those key units were gone.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Sometimes you sort of know as an experienced player like that it's going to be a very, very hard chance to win. Like you can see it, can't you? You know.
Yeah, if your key pieces in your army are lost early and they've got no value, then it's going to be a rough.
That's why you play on, because it's a dice game and it could swing. But
100%. Like the non-emissary, by the way, didn't die. The non-emissary was on that side of the board, and then obviously, so that objective went away at the end of turn 3, I believe it was, and it was just running down the side of my lines. Like it picked up like a ghost keel, then a hammerhead, then it walked onto my back objective and like did like sabotage or something like that, and so like it scored so many points this time. Like it's such a good unit. It's such a good unit.
It is. It's a base.
Yeah, and I think obviously there were a few things that went my way, a few things that went his. Like he did manage to just casually one bang a Riptide, I believe, at some point in the game with one of his T-Fexes, and and so it was a good game. He was a good player, but I think that there were a few things that just went my way that just meant that the game was just
like the dice roll to go first.
What? It doesn't matter that much on this mission.
So before we wrap it up, then a very poignant question that Joe asked in our last video was is there anything that you'd change about the list?
So I'm still obviously experimenting with my list. If you want to go back to my list, is that right?
I can't. I'm gonna skip all the way back. Here we go. Yeah, to see the gorgeous slides.
Your amazing editing.
Yeah, my extreme PowerPoint skills. There we go.
Yes, yeah. So, in my personal opinion, in Mont'Ka, as I already mentioned at the start, hammerheads are good, but broadsides are probably better. And the only reason why I didn't use them is because I didn't want to paint them like garbage just so that they'd be ready for an event.
Okay.
So yeah. Other than that, I have the Riptides are an auto include in every list. The Hammerheads, as I mentioned, you could probably drop. Other than that, I do like the list. You could probably drop down to 1 Ghost Keel. But yeah, the thing about Tau at the minute is obviously they're in a good spot in terms of like the game because they've got tons of utility and it's cheap, and obviously really good output, and they can play the mission well. But Riptides are just not include, and there's like units like Breaches again. There is arguments to be made to still take Hammerheads. These were the I don't know if we mentioned this, but these were the rail Hammerheads just to help my anti-tank. Yeah. But the Hammerheads with the ions are actually really, really good because it's D6 plus 3 blast shots that are strength 8, flat 3 damage, and they're just really good.
Would you sort of have the Riptides for that role? Do you know what I mean?
You do, but you could have 3 Riptides, 2 Hammerheads, and then still have broadsides. Because, and essentially what that means is so you drop the 2 Ghost Kills instead, and add in, so it's 180 points for 2 broadsides, so obviously 360. So essentially from this list, what you would do is drop the 2 Ghost Kills, and then you'd have to find 40 points. So either doing that by either dropping a stealth suit, or you could like downgrade a certain unit, like maybe drop a Cadre Fireblade, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be like a mini series, I think, because Jacob's doing a lot of RTTs locally, so hopefully we'll see how like your list develops. Maybe like, on the next time we do a winning list.
On the next episode of Jacob Does Tau. All right. Well, thanks so much, Jacob, for coming on, and big congratulations again for the win. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Again, you can head to our website. The link is in the description. You can have a look at our shirts, the tattoo shirts, very, very cool, and they're ethical. And the artists who design them get paid per sale, so you can go ahead and buy one. Our up-and-coming events are 11th of August. We have an RTT at the Outpost in Sheffield, the same place that we do our Wednesday Warfare. There's 32 places for that, so again, you can grab your tickets for that in the link below. And then we've got on the 15th September a RTT in Leeds, Leodis Games, so you can come down to that as well. And just as a side note, we have today announced our brand new Leeds Teams tournament. It's a 26-team tournament at the Edge in Leeds, and it's on the 14th and 15th of June 2025. So you can find tickets for that and all the event details on our website if you'd like to take part. So yeah, thank you, Joe, for being with us. Thank you, Jacob, and
a great host.
Yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.